When did you learn that the real monsters are hiding in plain sight? I was sitting next to my dementia-stricken husband in his hospice room when two officers walked in to question him about molesting our granddaughter. 6 weeks earlier, our son Gail had brought little Roberta to visit. She's 4, and the light of Frank's fading world, the only person who could still make him smile even when he didn't recognize anyone else. Gail stepped out to take a work call, and I was in the bathroom when I heard Roberta giggling. I came out to find Frank playing peekaboo with her, his hands over his eyes, then spreading them wide, saying, "Boo," like he'd done with our kids 40 years ago. Roberta was squealing with joy sitting on the edge of his bed. It was the most alert I'd seen Frank in weeks, actually engaging instead of staring at nothing. Gail walked back in right as Frank was covering Roberta's eyes with his hands to play her turn, and his face went white. He grabbed Roberta so roughly she started crying and stormed out without a word. I tried calling him for days, but he wouldn't answer. Then his wife Rebecca texted me that we were sick people and to never contact them again. I had no idea what happened until the officers showed up. Officer Garrett pulled out a report while Officer Preston stood by the door. Gail Steele reported that Frank Steele molested Roberta Steele on October 15th during a visit. I almost laughed because it was so absurd. Molested? He was playing peekaboo. His hands were on her eyes for the game. Garrett ignored me and leaned over Frank, who was staring at the ceiling. "Mr. Steele, did you touch Roberta?" Frank didn't respond because Frank doesn't even know his own name most days. "Mr. Steele, answer the question," Preston said louder, like Frank was being difficult on purpose, and I started getting irritated. "He has dementia. He can't answer you." The hospice nurse Maria came in and confirmed Frank has advanced Alzheimer's. His brain is literally deteriorating. But Garrett said, "That's convenient, isn't it?" And I felt my first flash of real anger. "Convenient? He's dying," Maria said, but Preston smirked. "Smart enough to molest a kid, though," and I wanted to slap him. I showed them Frank's medical records, brain scans showing the massive deterioration, doctor's notes saying he has maybe 2 months left, but Garrett said, "PDOS fake illnesses all the time to avoid consequences," and now I was furious, my voice shaking. Fake? He doesn't even know who I am half the time. Frank started getting agitated from the loud voices and tried to pull out his IV. Maria had to hold his hands while I begged the officers to leave, getting more desperate. "We're not going anywhere until he confesses," Garrett said, then grabbed Frank's shoulder and shook him. "Frank, did you touch Roberta?" And I screamed, "Get your hands off him." Frank started crying, not understanding why someone was yelling at him, and his heart monitor started beeping faster. "His heart rate is 150, Maria said. "You need to leave before what? Before he has to answer for being a pedo?" Preston said, and I lost it. "He was playing peekaboo. Are you insane?" Frank's breathing got ragged and he started clutching his chest. Maria hit the emergency button, but Garrett blocked her from getting to the medicine cart. He's faking to avoid talking, and I shoved him. "Move! He's having a heart attack." But Preston grabbed my arms. "Assaulting an officer? You're under arrest too." Other nurses rushed in and Dr. Kim tried to push past, but they wouldn't move. "This is an active crime scene," Garrett said, while Frank's monitor showed his heart rate at 180, then 190, and I was screaming, "You're killing him! He played peekaboo." That's all. Frank was gasping, his face turning gray, reaching for me, but the officers held me back. "Caroline," he said, the first clear word he'd spoken in days. "Caroline, help." And I fought against Preston's grip, sobbing. "That's my name. He knows me. Please." But Garrett said, "PETAs always manipulate their enablers." And I screamed, "He's not. He's a dying old man." They started chest compressions while the officers stood there watching, and I was hysterical now. "You monsters, I hate you. Why are you killing my husband before it's time?" They disregarded every word I said. "We have a court order for his DNA," Preston said while they shocked Frank's heart. "Dead or alive, we're getting it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were letting him die over peekaboo. Dr. Kim was screaming about calling security, but Garrett said, "We have jurisdiction. This is a child molestation case." And I was beyond rage now. It was peekaboo. He put his hands on her eyes. For a game. Frank flatlined for 40 seconds while they worked on him, the officers discussing whether they could still prosecute if he died, and I collapsed on the floor sobbing and screaming. They got him back, but he was unconscious, and Garrett leaned over his bed. "When he wakes up, if he wakes up, he's under arrest for child molestation. And you," he pointed at me, "you're under investigation for enabling child abuse. We're freezing your assets, taking your passport, and CPS will decide if any grandchildren can ever visit you again." I knew I needed to talk to Gail. Full story on channel linked below.